we've been talking a lot about what's happening in the United States, but let's put this in a global context of where we are with the concentration of wealth and power. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Erica. Yes, time to go global. Take a look at the screen. See that little green part on the left? That's the Royal Nairobi Golf Club. That is where the Bwana Kubwa come to spend their weekends. That's the big men in Nairobi, the ministers, the billionaires, and they have their nice little time together. On that hole, when they go long, when they hit it over the green, they're going to hit somebody. You know why? Because that part on the right side is called Kibera, and it is the most densely populated place in the world. 1 million people living in about a square mile of land. Oxfam, I used to work there, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience when I went back recently. Oxfam in 2013 asked how concentrated is extreme wealth. We found that 85 people had the richest 85 had the same wealth as the poorest half of humanity. We asked again in 2015, and that number had gone down to 62. Last year we asked it again, and now it's 26. How's this happening? Here's how it's happening. We're seeing a new billionaire every 2 days. 10 years ago, there was less than 800. Today, there's more than 2,200, and collectively, they own $9 trillion of the global economy. What's happening for the other half of humanity? Last year, we found they lost 11% of their wealth. You're talking about people who are living on $5.50 a day. They're losing money. How is this happening? It's happening because of taxes, we think, at every level. If you look globally, and these aren't US numbers, these are global numbers. Top income tax rates in 1970, 62%. Today, they're 38%. Corporate taxes. That tax break that just went out, we released a report yesterday that found just 2 clauses from the recent tax breaks gave 4 drug companies $7 billion. That's enough money to pay the health insurance needs of 2.2 million kids. Wealth taxes, same trend. That's the line at the bottom. So where's all the money going? Well, we found that 7.6 trillion of it is sitting in tax havens, doing nothing for anybody. That's where the wealth is going. Are we taxing that wealth? No. Globally, we're only getting 4% of tax revenue from wealth. Think about that, 4% from all this wealth. If we just added 0.5% and taxed the top 1%, 0.5% more of their wealth, every single kid around the world who can't go to school today because their public services don't have the money, that's 262 million kids, they could go to school. And at the same time, as well as that, you could get basic health care to 3.3 million people, literally saving their lives. That is the relationship between these two facts. The IMF found the same thing. The IMF said, if you want to reduce inequality, there's nothing better you can do than spend it on healthcare and education. In the 13 countries they looked at, it accounted for nearly 70% of the reduction in inequality. When we went out there and looked at it, we work in about 100 countries. We went to the countries that are doing the most to reduce inequality. And we looked at, for example, those countries that are helping mothers get through that period of childbirth. The countries that are doing the best on that front, 90% of their money comes from public services. So this love affair we have with private sector is going to solve all our problems, it's actually a tiny fraction of the solution for people really on the wrong end of inequality. In the end of the day, and we've been hearing about it all morning, we're really having a conversation about 2 different economies. What we've been sold for the last 4 decades is the neoliberal model. If you want public services, get it through insurance. Let's just create the financial incentives. What are we talking about? We're talking about rebuilding a human economy. One that is tax financed, one that is values driven, one where services are genuinely public and universal. Everybody has a right to them because they're citizens. This isn't just about how many toys these folks can buy. This is a story about power. Jeff Bezos, 1% of his wealth is the same as the entire health budget of Ethiopia. That's 114 million people, 1% of his wealth. That's not just money, that's power. When these guys, these 8 guys, we documented this story and the Times covered it. When these guys sit around a dinner table, they don't just get to talk about what's their third boat going to look like. They can change the fate of nations. They can decide what we think, what we see, who we talk to, how we live. That is what is happening to our democracy. They are the Bwana Kubwa, the big men of today. So when I went back there a few weeks ago to the place that I was in, I was asking myself, what's the relationship between these two places? And I met Beatrice. Beatrice, see her t-shirt, NTA, that's National Taxpayers Association. And I said, hey, Beatrice, I used to work here, and they didn't have big buildings like that one behind us here. They just used to have sheds. How'd you get the big building? And she said, that's a health clinic. Let me tell you how I got it. We went and looked at our taxes that were supposed to be coming to our slum, and we were supposed to get a health clinic. So I went to the Bwana Kubwa, and I said, where's our health clinic? That night, he sent henchmen round to our house and said, you can talk about a lot of things here, but don't talk about taxes, and don't talk about your tax money, and certainly don't talk about why I'm not spending it. So she went home, and she talked to her tax friends, and she said, let's go and see whether people want their tax money sitting in the Bwana Kubwa's pocket or in our health clinic. And they went out, and they got people to sign petitions, and they went back, and they sent them a whole bunch of signatures from all the mothers in that slum and said, we want our tax money. And a week later, they started to build a building. Taxes are about power. What we are trying to build is a human economy where we and Beatrice work together to take that power away from the Bwana Kubwas of this world and build a movement that works for everyone. That's why we at Oxfam are joining you in your tax the rich struggles. Thank you.